60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Come May 29, 2017, it will be 2 years since Muhammadu Buhari became President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He campaigned on 3 major issues: the war against corruption, to improve the economy, and to battle insecurity. Don't forget, Nigeria had been in the throes of a war with Boko Haram. Well, hello and welcome to the program. I'm Angela Ajitumobi. And so FEMI Adesina, who's the special advisor to President Buhari on media and publicity, joins me today on the program, and he's speaking for the president. The last time you were here, the president was still in the United Kingdom taking an extended holiday, but he officially resumed work on Monday, the 13th of March, 2017. In our last conversation, you also said he was entitled to privacy, notwithstanding that he is president. But there's a call now from many Nigerians for him to speak to us, for us to know that he's not in any way incapacitated or held down by this ubiquitous cabal, that we always hear about.
Well, when you talk of many Nigerians, we can't quantify it. I wish we could. Don't forget that about 15 million people voted this president. And if 5, 10, 15, 20 people are speaking out, it seems like a crowd, a motley crowd, because there is the vocal minority which has access to the media.
Yes.
And when they begin to speak, you think the whole country is agog. But unknown to you, there are still 7,000 prophets who have not bowed their knees to Baal, as the Bible says. So you have millions of Nigerians who are wishing the president well, who are praying for him, and who are trusting God that he will recover fully so that he can continue the good job he is doing, the good vision he has for Nigeria, so that he can accomplish it.
Is he incapacitated in any way?
Incapacitation is the topmost rung of the ladder.
I'm asking that because he's missed 2 federal executive meetings.
Yes.
I'm assuming that his residence where he lives and his office where he works is within the same vicinity. So
Yes.
if he's asking for files to be brought home on the day of the last meeting, as Mr. Mohammed, the information minister, clarified,
Yes.
it seems to me that he's unable to walk that short distance from home to the office.
No,
It's
that's
scary.
No, that's not it. Yes, from the home to the office, maybe 7-10 minutes walk.
Yes.
Yeah, but then his doctors told him to take things easy. When he came back, he resumed his normal schedule.
Yes.
But at a point, doctor had to tell him to reduce that schedule further. And any day he feels he needs some rest, that's when he takes it easy. And that Wednesday precisely that he didn't come to Federal Executive Council, he asked that the urgent files be brought to him at all.
Have you read latest reports online, saying that he's unable to eat or drink?
I read it, but I can't authenticate those reports.
Yes.
Yeah, I read it. I read it since last night, actually, but I can't authenticate those reports. You know, it's an all-commerce affair online. So anybody can just sit down, concoct anything, conjecture anything, and post it.
Let me read to you something that Professor Wole Soyinka said recently. Quote, "The president is supposed to understand that he is public property. Once you are in Aso Rock, you have a responsibility to come out frankly to your citizens. Let him address the nation and stop all these speculations which create unnecessary political manipulations, among other things." End of quote.
Yes, you know that that was not the first time President Soyinka was saying it. He said it maybe about 2 months ago. The president was abroad then.
Yes.
He had said it, I should disclose what was ailing him. But under the law, our own law does not compel anybody, not even the president, to disclose the status of his health.
Right.
And under the Hippocratic Oath, which doctors swear to, they pledge never to reveal what is wrong with their patients. So not even his doctors can say it. The sum total of that is that it's only the president that can disclose what ails him.
Right.
Nobody can compel him to. So if he decides to do it, then it is done.
So all the reports we read about on stories online about him having Crohn's disease or prostate disease, we should disregard those
Anybody
reports?
can just manufacture anything.
Yes.
Also, unless it's authenticated, there is no basis for believing it.
Right. Do you think that we're entitled as Nigerians to some kind of briefing regarding his health? In 2009, the now Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, had said that the health of the president as a public figure can no longer be of interest only to his family and friends. Nigerians have a right to know. We call on the Executive Council, the only body constitutionally empowered, to start the process of determining whether or not the president can continue in office on the basis of his health. And this was at the height of the late President Yar'Adua's absence from work.
Yes, you know that as at then, President Yar'Adua was outside the country and power was not transmitted to his deputy. So there was a state of flux in the country. Under this dispensation, the 2 times the president had traveled for medical reasons, he transmitted power to the vice president. There was no vacuum in governance. So the two are incomparable. They are not quite the same thing.
The former president, Goodluck Jonathan, is accusing the Buhari government of harassing his family. He says, "I feel sad about the way my family is being hounded." This is contained in a new book written by the chairman of the editorial board of Nigeria's This Day newspapers, Olusegun Adeniyi. What is the president's response to that?
We already responded, and our response was that anybody who has no skeleton in his cupboard has no cause to worry in Nigeria. But if you have skeletons in your cupboard, you have every cause to worry. So if the Jonathan family has nothing to hide, the former president should just sleep easy. But if there are things to hide, then they have cause to worry.
You don't think that it looks awkward? Of all the past presidents, President Jonathan's wife is the only first lady that is facing charges of corruption from any of the anti-corruption agencies.
You know that when trails are fresh, they are easier to follow. Because that is the middle past government, you have the trails leading to different kinds of things. So it's easy to follow. Rather than somebody who had been there 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
The trails are obliterated, so to speak. So when the trails are evident and this anti-graft agencies have a job to do, they will do it. It's not targeted at individual. It's just because the trails are evident.
And if the trails are evident, then how do we explain the loss of 4 major cases by the federal government. Michael Zekome's case, the receipt of 75 million in legal fees, First Lady's case, court, and the Attorney General also lost against Justice Adeni Ademola, and the ICPC lost against former Minister for Niger Delta because the Orubebe, that contract, failure to execute contract for the East-West Road at Eket. How do we explain those 4 losses?
Let's remove one of the cases,
okay, which one?
The former First Lady.
Okay.
Because there has been a development on that after the time you were quoting. Just last week, a court ruled that money, I think $5.8 million, should be forfeited to the federal government temporarily. So let's excise that case.
Let's move that away. Okay, so the other 3.
The other 3. That is why it is good that you have the next court of resort. Those are high court cases. Fortunately, you have appeal court, and then you have the ultimate, which is the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And the person in charge of prosecution, Okoye Obuno Obla,
yes,
has indicated that the federal government will pursue those cases further. So I'm sure that if there are things to correct before the next court, they will correct them. There are lessons to always learn.
All those 3 cases, if we remove the First Lady's case, are men linked to the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. It looks like either this administration has no capacity to fight corruption, or indeed Goodluck Jonathan is right that he's been witch-hunted.
I don't recall that Justice Ademola has been linked to the former president in any way, unless you want to tell me that he's been linked. But I don't recall. Justice Ademola has nothing to do with the former president. Okay. You can talk of Urubebe, and what's the other case?
The other one, Michael Zekome.
Michael Zekome, yes, I think he has sympathies for the former president. But the case that was taken to the court had nothing to do with the former president.
Yes.
Rather, it is something he did for the Ekiti State Governor, Ayodele Fayose,
yes,
and he was paid 75 million naira. So it's only Orubebe that surely has something to do with the former president.
Okay. Let's talk about marginalization now and the allegation of northernization against this administration. First, the recruitment scandal in the State Security Service, SSS. Latest figures from the 2016 recruitment into the SSS shows that Katsina State got 51 slots, more than that of all the 5 Southeast states altogether. Those 5 got 44 slots. We also know that the Director General of the SSS, Lawal Daura, is from Katsina State, and the President is from Katsina State. So the allegations of nepotism would seem to be valid. Do you agree with me?
Nigeria is not wanting in conspiracy theories. Any slightest thing, conspiracy theories will come in. But the DSS has also explained that exercise was meant to correct some imbalances in the system. States that had been given the short shrift, so to say, had more slots to correct the imbalance that was existing.
Okay, so now we have a balance across board.
Across board, exactly.
All right. Yeah. And the matter of the Director General of the National Pension Commission, which we call PENCOM, Chinelo Anohu Amazu, she's from Anambra State. She had a 5-year term as the DG of that agency. She did 2 years, was sacked and replaced by someone from Kaduna State, Aliyu Diko. Now, I want to read to you Section 21, subsection 2 of the Pension Reforms Act 2014. In the event of a vacancy, the President shall appoint a replacement from the geopolitical zone of the immediate past member that vacated office to complete the remaining tenure. End of quote.
That's the law, and the law is the law. I'm sure that was not factored in somehow when the replacement was being done.
Yes.
Beyond that, the law even says that before you can remove a sitting DG of PENCOM, you must write to him or her officially, yes, which also was not done. Yes. This government, as a law-obeying government, would hearken to all those things that have been pointed out. Okay. It's a running issue for now, but I believe that the proper
right thing will be done.
I believe so.
Join us again after the break.
Nice question.
Angela, that's a great question.
It's a good question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
That is a serious question. Angela, that is a very great question. Great question, Angela.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Angela, that's a tough one for me.
That's a good question. Good question.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. If you've just joined me, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitumobi. On my hot seat today, the special advisor to Nigeria's president on media and publicity, FEMI ADESINA. I must call your attention again to allegations of impunity against this administration. In spite of a court order issued on the 2nd of December 2016 by the Federal High Court, it is over 500 days, Mr. Adesina, that the Shia Muslim leader El Zakzaki and his wife Zina have been in custody without trial. When will this government release him? As that court order ordered him to be released within 45 days of the judgment, because that detention was illegal and unconstitutional.
Thank you. I think it's the Attorney General who can give you the authoritative position on this. Because if he was admitted to bail and is still being held, there could be one reason or the other, which I cannot speak on. Okay. But if you speak with the Attorney General, who is the Chief Law Officer for the Federation, he will tell you why.
All right.
The man and his wife are still being held.
Okay.
And don't also forget that Nnamdi Kanu, the IPOB leader, had also been admitted to bail a number of times. He was not released, but this latest one, he has been released.
Yes.
So there are certain things that may not be evident to us immediately, but somebody like the Attorney General of the Federation will know.
So can we be hopeful then that Sambo Dasuki, the former National Security Advisor too, will become free at some point?
Yes, the Attorney General can also clear that.
The last time you were here, you explained the rationale behind the Secretary to the Government of the Federation continuing in office in spite of the Senate's 220 million grass-cutting allegation. You said that the President requested for further clarifications before taking action. He wanted to know why they didn't invite the man to give his own side of the story. He wanted the signatures of all the committee members. These clarifications come forward?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. So if they didn't come forward and the President went ahead with the suspension, are we then to believe reports online that the only reason the SGF was finally suspended was because of pressures from donor agencies?
Donor agencies? No, that cannot be. That cannot be. That's too far-fetched.
Okay, that donor agencies were worried about the direction of the war against corruption.
No donor agency can dictate to the federal government. No donor agency can hold Nigeria to ransom.
Right.
Yeah, Nigeria will do what is right for the country at any given time.
So why was he eventually suspended?
He was suspended to give room for unfettered investigation, and that is what is in process now. You remember that what the Senate asked for was that he be dismissed.
Yes.
Now what is happening is not that he was dismissed, rather he was suspended so that there can be proper investigation. And the next move will be determined by the results of the investigation.
What value shall we put on the report of the Presidential Investigative Panel that is led by the Vice President with the Attorney General and the NSA also as a three-man panel? What value shall we put on it? I'm asking you because we have anti-corruption agencies. A lot of people feel that the EFCC, the ICPC, Special Fraud Unit, SFU, the police, they're all there and they could actually be the ones investigating the matter. We also know that the Vice President is a professor of law, the senior advocate of Nigeria, is Nigeria's foremost person on the law of evidence. But why is he the one investigating that matter and not the anti-corruption agencies?
One, these are top officers of government, very senior officers, the SGF, DGNIA. The DGNIA issue is so sensitive, you don't throw it to a public investigating agency because this has to do with covert security matters.
Right.
You may have things that will endanger national security, things that should not be known to too many people.
Yes.
And the three-member panel, the Vice President, the Attorney General, and the NSA, men of integrity, all three I know very well,
yes.
Men of integrity. You can be sure that whatever they come up with will be the truth and nothing but the truth. And then when they finish their work, if the anti-graft agencies need to step in, I'm sure they can.
Okay, so we're not ruling out the chance for the anti-corruption bodies to do their work.
Nothing is ruled out. Nothing is ruled out, but it depends on what the panel comes up with.
So, who is the presidency? You know, the press release announcing the suspension, you signed that release announcing it. You are in the same presidency with the SGF, who's on suspension. You both were appointed on the 31st of August.
No, we were sworn in the
same day.
Well, okay. I was appointed May 31, 2015.
Almost immediately.
Yes. Immediately. He was appointed in August. Or we got sworn in the same day.
Is there any love lost between the two of you?
No!
Because I was wondering why he asked that question.
No.
That question for me fueled my speculation that perhaps we're back to the days of when President Yar'Adua was alleged to have signed the budget over in Saudi Arabia. Nobody could vouch that he personally signed the budget. So when he asked the question, who is the presidency? It sounded to me like this man knows something that the president could not have signed anything, perhaps because the president is incapacitated.
No, I think it's a bit far-fetched. Okay. Rather, I'll see that question from the SGF as a rhetorical question. And rhetorical questions don't really demand answers.
Right.
It was just a rhetorical question. But if anybody now wants an answer to that question, he will be the proper person.
Perhaps he was reacting out of shock because he just came out of a meeting with Vice President and he was accosted.
And the Vice President briefed him. Why he was summoned to the Vice President office was so that the Vice President could brief him that this was going to happen.
Yes.
So he didn't hear of what happened just at that time. He had been told in the Vice President's office.
Okay, so it wasn't that much of a shock.
No.
I was reading El Rufai's memo, that was written in September, I think dated 22nd of September, 2016. The allegation that it was leaked from the presidency. I thought if it was leaked from the presidency, it means that somebody or some people in the presidency agree with the observations that El Rufai made in that memo.
Well, it's an allegation, so I can't speak on allegations. It is word against the word of anybody else.
Yes.
Yeah, but one thing we know is that memo, which was private, got into the public domain.
Yes.
How it got into the public domain, nobody knows.
Were you surprised, as I was, that he had such deep thoughts about the performance of this administration? I mean, he says that the APC has failed to deliver even mundane matters of governance outside of success in fighting Boko Haram insurgency and corruption. Overall, the feeling, even among our supporters today, is that the APC government is not doing well.
Well, we know Governor Rufai to be quite cerebral, and his opinions are usually well respected and well thought out. But these are political issues. I'm not a politician. That can better be assessed or addressed by those who belong to the same political persuasion as him.
Yes.
But the things he mentioned, fighting insurgency, fighting corruption, are major. They are very major. Yes. In fact, the very continued existence of the country depends on those things. If the battle was not taken to the insurgents by this administration, the way they were running riot all over the country, 2 years ago, there may not have been Nigeria today. And of course, with corruption, you know that if corruption is not tackled, development suffers. So those two things that Governor Rufai has accepted are achievements, are very big achievements.
Is everybody in the presidency and in the federal government on the same page with the president as far as this war on corruption is concerned?
They should be, if they are working with him, if they have been appointed and they are working with him. Anybody that is not on the same page should then quit. That's just it. That person will be hypocritical if he still remains on the job.
In office.
Yes.
And the rise of the cabal, again, we're hearing of a cabal. Is the president being held hostage without him even knowing it? Are some people just saying things, giving us the impression that the president is working?
The vice president is the number 2 man in the country. He was asked this question about 2 or 3 weeks ago when he met with some journalists. They asked him if there was truly a cabal in the presidency, and he said he had not seen any. So, if the vice president has not seen any, that must be the true position.
And still on the allegation of northernization, the new acting SGF, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, a woman, Dr. Habiba Mudalawal, sounds to me like Muslim. I read somewhere an allegation that this SGF, Babachir Lawal, was suspended because he's a Christian. And it just occurred to me, will the new SGF be a Christian? Assume there will be a new one since Dr. Habiba is acting now.
I think we're running too fast because the SGF, as we speak today, is on suspension and is being investigated.
Okay.
What if he's investigated and is exonerated? Should we then be talking of his successor now? No, I don't think we should be.
Okay.
Let the panel finish his work, let it submit his report, and then let the president announce a decision.
Yes.
That's when that matter
will be
relevant. Yes.
Okay. And on the economy, that's one of the points President Buhari campaigned about in 2015.
Yes.
6 exchange rates we have today in the country for different sectors. Overseas school fees has different rates, medical costs have different rates. What is happening? When are we going to get to the point where we have one?
Well, that question is best answered by the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is in charge of monetary policy. But then it's also on record that the CBN governor has said the ultimate goal is a convergence of all the exchange rates. So if that is the ultimate goal, I think we should just wait till we get there.
Yes.
We know that 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, Naira exchanged to the dollar for as high as 525.
Yes.
Yeah. And now, as we speak, it's around 380. So if that feat, so to speak, has been attained, a lot more can still be achieved. And don't forget that as that is being done, the foreign reserves is rising. Foreign reserves now stand at $3.1 billion, which has not been achieved in the past 2 years.
Yes.
So while we have enough dollars to defend the Naira, we are also not suffering at the foreign reserves end. I think good things are happening on the economic front.
The Punch reporter that was allegedly banned, I know you've responded. You know, I was reading the papers where they said you told the CSO to the president that he was on his own as far as that matter was concerned. How did that story get a life? I mean, how did it happen that it got to the point of an expulsion of the reporter in the first place? It gives an impression as if some people are second guessing the president and hoping to drag us back to the days of a military government.
Well, I would just like to say that that issue has been resolved and amicably resolved. But what happened was that there was some procedural error which has been corrected. Because the procedure was if anything was happening to a journalist, the media office, and particularly myself as special advisor on media and publicity, should have been told, should have been consulted.
You were not informed.
I said it in my statement that I was not informed. But that has been corrected because a formal report was done to me later. And like they say, all is well that ends well.
The Punch is asking, Punch management wants full unqualified apology from the chief security officer and the presidency. They also want unconditional restoration of reportorial access and privileges. And 3, they want an apology addressed to the reporter and the newspaper. Have all these been done?
They are the ones that will answer that question. But one thing I can say is restoration of reportorial privileges
And access?
Was ordered that same day because the Director General of the Department of State Services, who is the boss of the CSO,
Right.
immediately directed that the access tag be returned and the reporter allowed to return to his beat.
So he has returned to his...
No, that question is best answered by the reporter and his medium.
Join us again after the break. So what is 60 Minutes with Angela all about? It's not an interview. I like to think it's a conversation between two people making the news, people who are in the news, and those who become the news. And the whole idea is to inform, to educate, or to clarify, as the case may be. It is an art getting people to answer the questions that everyone is thinking in their minds. And that's what we try to do on 60 Minutes with Angela. I ask all the questions that everyone's thinking about and no one wants to voice. All the questions you always wanted to ask. You get those answers on 60 Minutes with Angela every week on this station. 60 Minutes with Angela, getting answers to every question you always wanted to ask. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with FEMI ADESINA, the special advisor to Nigeria's President Buhari on media and publicity. I want to read to you something that the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, said. If every president decides to go in to dismantle what his predecessor did, society will never make progress. I expected President Muhammadu Buhari to correct whatever mistakes I may have made and then carry on from there, end of quote.
It would have been better if you had cited examples of things that were dismantled. The Abuja Cardinal Railway was a project that was inherited. This government completed it and is now running. Is that a dismantling? The railway project and MOU signed with China in different fields, on different fronts for different projects. Nigeria did not pay
its own counterpart
funding.
Yes.
The president signed those MOU again, and the government is paying its part of the counterpart funding. Is that a dismantling? I don't know what dismantling is. There are so many projects inherited from the past administration which are either being continued or have been completed. So, what were the ones dismantled? Anything that will be dismantled, if any, is corruption. Anything that has the slightest trace of corruption, the slightest affinity with corruption, will be dismantled, because we know this president, he has zero tolerance for corruption. So it would have been good if the former president has cited some instances of things he began and we this government dismantled. I don't think so. It's crying wolf where there is none.
You don't see this presidential investigative panel as some do. It's providing a sort of soft landing for the SGF and the DG of the NIA in case they will have to be relieved of their jobs.
We can't preempt the panel. As we speak now, the panel has 3-4 days to complete its work. So we can't preempt it.
And many are still complaining about the increasing killing of Christians allegedly on ethno-religious grounds in the north. They see this administration as refusing or being unable to punish those who are perpetrating violence against Christians. First, does the administration see it that way, as people perpetrating violence against Christians, or do they see it as just sheer criminality?
Criminality is criminality. It has no religion, it has no ethnic background. Criminality is criminality. And I don't think the claim that Christians are being killed can actually be substantiated. People from all religions have been killed. It's not a genocide against a religious group, no.
Yes.
And every soul, whether Christian, whether Muslim, whether pagan, whatever,
Yes.
is valuable. So the government sees it as criminality, and anybody responsible for criminality must be ready to answer for it. Don't forget that the Kaduna State government published the names of people killed,
Yes.
and the names of some people declared wanted. Go and read that list. You find from the names, you just find that they are from both religions.
So no one is clean.
No one is no one.
If anyone asked you that 2 years on, in another 2 years, the president will either be seeking a second term or deciding it's had enough, how would you describe his achievements, if any, so far?
Yes, 2 years down the line, I would say that some promises made have been kept. With some other promises, it is work in progress. And that is why a democratic administration has a lifespan of 4 years. You don't expect that all promises will be fulfilled in 1 year or 2 years. That's why it's 4 years. So you can pace yourself depending on the time available to you. So a good number of promises have been kept. The ones that have not been kept are in the process of being kept. And I believe that God being merciful to our president because of the health challenges,
Yes.
if he gets fully restored, by the end of the term, a lot would have been done, and a good number of Nigerians will be happy that President Buhari came to rule and to lead this country.
What do you say to the call for him to resign because of his health challenges and the extent of the work that needs to be done?
Yeah, it can only be the opinion of those who have made the call. And not too many people have made that call. I have not seen very, very responsible people making that call. Because when 50 million Nigerians elect a man, 2, 3, 4, 5 people cannot come up and say resign.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. What the president needs at this point is not a play to the gallery as those people are doing. It's just empathy and compassion and goodwill. Because life and death belong to God. Ultimately, God has the final say about life and death. Our desire is that God will restore the health of the president fully, and then what he has in mind, his vision for Nigeria, can come to fruition.
He had said when he first came back that he would be heading back
Yes.
to the United Kingdom for follow-up checks. Will that be anytime soon?
Anytime that he will go, Nigerians will be informed. This president is plain and straightforward. You won't just suddenly hear that he was in UK.
Yes.
Before he goes, he will tell you.
One of the things that people were hoping he would be able to sort out is the issue of electricity supply. Unfortunately, today we are still where we are. It would appear to people like myself that maybe this administration needs to take a look at the reforms that have been carried out and the privatization of the power sector as a way out of the quagmire that we find ourselves in. Is the president considering any other avenues towards ensuring that we improve on a power supply?
Yes, I know that you used to talk to Minister Fashola from time to time. He's the one that will give you the authoritative position on that. Well, I recall that in the recent Federal Executive Council, a minister came up to say, obviously the privatization done in the power sector has not worked.
Yes.
That can it be revoked? Minister Fashola himself said he didn't believe that that was the way to go. He also told the media, I read him in
Yes.
the newspapers, that he doesn't believe it was the
Because
way
it
to
gives
go.
the wrong signal
Exactly.
to investors outside
Exactly.
the country.
Exactly.
But if it's
Exactly.
not working, you
Yeah.
know, what do we do?
Exactly. But a decision can be taken, and that decision can be taken with a human face. There are many ways to kill a snake, as they say. You don't just come with a sledgehammer and revoke that privatization. It will send the wrong signal to the rest of the world.
Are we to expect a cabinet change now at this 2-year mark? It's normally a time of introspection by an administration.
Yeah.
Is anything in the offing?
It depends on the president, because he assembled that cabinet. If he wants to tweak it, if he wants to dismantle it, if he wants to move some people around, the decision is his own. Today is May 1,
Yes.
so 28 days more.
Are we going to have any form of celebrations?
No, if you check the antecedents of this administration, you have not seen anything elaborately celebrated.
Yes.
That just is in character with the nature of the president. A sparse man, he will just say the money that you will use for that celebration, deploy it to
Something else.
to something more productive.
Will he speak with us?
I think it's become like a tradition that presidents make a broadcast on May 29. All things being equal.
All things being equal.
Yeah,
You know, I see these expensive jokes that people crack on social media saying on Friday they look forward to the sighting of the president. So it's very important that he understands that Nigerians need to see him and want to see him just to make sure that he's okay.
He is recovering, and we believe God that he will recover. Don't forget, some Nigerians want to see him, and when they see him on Fridays, they are very happy. Some other people, particularly a critical governor in the Southwest, derisively called him Friday president. So we never win with some Nigerians.
Is he aware that there is so much speculation out there about him?
The president is aware of anything and everything going on in the country. It amazes. There was a day I had gone to visit him, just like a social visit, and I said, Mr. President, Nigerians are hungry. He said, I am aware. I'm aware that people from my constituency in Dara come here and they tell me what they're passing through. Says, but it's temporary. Things will change. So the president is aware. When they were calling him Baba Go Slow, he spoke about it. He said, I know they call me Baba Go Slow, but I will be slow and steady. So he's aware. Even if he is not really in the social media age, he has children who are in that age, they will tell him. He has aides who are in that age, they will tell him. So he's really, really informed about what is going on.
You were at the public presentation of Olusegun Adeniyi's book, Against the Run of Play. One of the quotes in there, I want to talk about that. Jonathan speaking on President Buhari, he says, his style of fighting corruption is different from mine, and since most Nigerians apparently prefer his style, it is okay.
Well, what will determine the style preferred at the end of the day will be the achievements recorded. Within 3 weeks, in April, the federal government recovered 17 billion naira. Was that recovered in the 5 years of Jonathan? I doubt. So at the end of the day, it's the result that we achieve that matters.
Where are these monies? I mean, how will we know how much we've recovered so far? We hear all these figures being bandied about. When I saw the acting chairman of EFCC at the Senate, I thought I would get a figure from him. He couldn't provide one.
But figures have been provided by Minister of Information and the Attorney General of the Federation. The two of them have provided figures of what had been recovered up to a certain time.
Yes.
That figure did not include the ones, the 17 billion naira recovered in April alone. So you can be sure that by the time they are going to update the recovered monies, the figure is going to be really, really amazing to Nigerians. That is why Nigerians prefer this style of fighting corruption to any other style, because results are being achieved.
And staying on that book as an aside, did the president and former governor of Lagos State, Bola Tinubu, have a prior agreement at the time the APC was formed that they would contest on a joint ticket? This is one of the facts revealed by Olusegun Adeniyi in his book.
I do not have that information, but I recall that before that election in 2015, the information had been in the public domain that Asiwaju Tinubu wanted to be the vice president. But we know the situation in the country at that time. Boko Haram was running riots all over the place. Having the president and the vice president of the same religion may not have worked. So I think expediency had to determine that the vice presidential candidate be Christian, and not just Christian, but pastor of a very big church, and it worked.
To counter any speculations
Exactly.
about
Yes.
Islamizing.
Yes.
Is the president or the presidency on good terms with the governor of Kaduna State?
He was in the villa on Good Friday. On Good Friday, during the Jumat service,
Yes.
he was there. And he was shaking the president.
I thought with that memo released.
The president is not like that. Even if the president ever gets angry, his anger is but for a moment. After some time, he overlooks it.
Yes.
That's the advantage of his age. If he's displeased about something, after a while, it blows over,
Yes.
and he readmits the person into his fold.
Yes. Okay. So the acting SGF, who is she?
She is a top civil servant, the most senior permanent secretary in the office of the SGF.
Right.
You know, the directive was that those two officials you hand over to the most senior person in their offices.
So that's why she's acting.
Yes, that's why she's acting. She's a career civil servant.
All right.
So that shows you that it's just temporary.
Okay. So whether Babachir Lawal comes back or not, if he doesn't, then a new appointment will be made.
Most likely.
Well, the Southeast people are clamoring for an Igbo man to be given that post of the SGF, assuming, of course, that Babachir Lawal doesn't come back. You think that is likely?
They are part of the country. They are part of the country. They can make demands. On a personal level, I'll just tell our brothers and sisters from that part of the country to really determine what they want. They can't, in one breath, ask for an independent state of Biafra,
Yes.
and in another breath, ask for top positions in Nigeria. They need to determine what they want. But they are part of Nigeria, and they have a right to clamor for any position. But let them decide and determine what they really want.
Is the president against the Igbos?
The president is for all Nigerians. There are 5 southeastern states, so 5 ministers from the southeast. 4 of them are main ministers. Only 1 is a minister of state. That already shows you. And if you look at the portfolio of the main ministers, Jeffrey Onyema is foreign affairs, key ministry. Okechukwu Enilama is trade, investment and industry, key ministry. Dr. Bonaya Onu is science and technology, key ministry. Chris Ngige, labor and employment, key ministry. It's only Professor Anthony Anwuka who is Minister of State Education. The president hated Igbos. He will, put them in anonymous and obscure ministries, and he will ensure that they are ministers of state.
There's no fear for the Igbos
absolutely,
with this administration.
absolutely not. And don't forget that the person who was both GMD NNPC and Minister of State Petroleum Resources is a Delta Igbo. If the president, Ibe Kachukwu, if the president did not like Igbos, he would not give him those 2 powerful portfolios.
Sensitive
Very
jobs.
sensitive. Yeah.
All right. So the achievements in the area of the economy.
Well, don't forget that about 3-4 weeks ago, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan was launched, and it's 2017 to 2020. That shows you that that plan covers the immediate, the short term, and the long term. And that plan has been well applauded by relevant people. That plan was even put together in consultation with the private sector and top economists.
So they all had input.
They all had input. A series of seminars and retreats were held before they arrived at that document. Yes. So that is something that will revolutionize the Nigerian economy. The target is 7% growth by 2020. If we achieve that, Nigeria is on an even keel, and we can even build on whatever we have. Agriculture, solid minerals, cooperation with the private sector, those are some of the highlights of that ERGP. Yes. And it will position the Nigerian economy like it has never been done before. Because we must go beyond the economy rising today if oil prices rise, and falling tomorrow if oil prices also fall.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Adesina, for coming on the program on this 2nd anniversary of President Muhammadu Buhari. And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajitumobi.